This is the Cereal at Midnight podcast. Howdy guys, welcome back to the Cereal at Midnight podcast. My name is Heath Holland, and well, in this episode, Anastasia Elfman returns. This is her second appearance at Cereal at Midnight. The first time she was joined by her husband, Richard Elfman, brother of Danny Elfman. Both of those guys were the founders of the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo. We all know the history of Oingo Boingo and Danny Elfman and Richard Elfman. Forbidden Zone, they were here talking about that. I guess it's been about a year since they were here talking about the Blu-ray release of Forbidden Zone. They were touring that movie as well. They were talking about Aliens, Clowns, and Geeks, which Anastasia is in. But now she is the star of Bloody Bridget. And this thing is winning awards, you guys. 14 festival awards and counting, because they're still out touring the film. And they've taken this thing all over the world. So if you want to catch a really interesting, fun, unique, different, quirky horror movie that's also funny and also has music in it and is just really, like, if you've seen any of Richard Elfman's movies, you know he's doing a very specific thing. It's a very specific kind of like performance theater, but it is all so fun and so invitational. It just invites you in. But Anastasia is the star of this movie, and she's wearing other hats than that too. Yeah, she's the choreographer because there's a lot of dancing in the movie. It really speaks to all of her skills, and I wanted to talk to her about that. So that's what we're doing here. But we're also talking about burlesque. We're talking about classic horror. And guys, I don't mean like 70s horror or like Hammer horror. I mean Lon Chaney senior horror. We're talking about silent horror. So there's a whole lot of cool stuff here that if you're a fan of more, independent is what we're talking about, like off the beaten path, things that feel unique, things that bear the fingerprints of its creator. That's what this is. And that's the stuff that I champion and that you love so much about Cereal at Midnight. So that's what we're doing here. We're spotlighting Anastasia Elfman and Bloody Bridget. So this is so much fun. You guys, this is so much fun. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed talking to Anastasia. Without further ado, Anastasia Elfman. So, hey, first of all, thank you for letting me see the movie. I appreciate the screening link to see the movie. I didn't have to go to a festival. I would go to a festival, but I didn't have to.
Yes, no, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I mean, it's a very wacky, classic Richard Elfman tale.
Yeah.
And the great thing about us funding it ourselves is there was nobody telling him other than me once in a while. Like it's very him. Like there's no filter, let's say. Just, like it's very Richard Elfman, and nobody's messing with
That's
that.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about is, do you feel like, so that's a benefit of being independent. Is that really something you guys have had to deal with over the years, is people meddling in the creativity of what you're trying to do?
Well, I guess I don't know. What I do and what Rick does is so out there in left field compared to like regular, let's say, cinema or like Marvel or things like that.
Hmm.
So I guess there's always somebody doing something like that. But for the most part, I feel like Ricky's had, he speaks up for himself a lot,
Yeah.
so nobody's messing with him.
Well, he's got the track record too, right? I mean, that's one of the things
Yeah.
when you guys were here to talk about it was the Blu-ray release for Forbidden Zone. I was like, one of the things I was like, where does all this come from? Like, what's the stew that makes this? And I also was like, how are you free to do what you want to do? Are you making the things you want to make? And that, like, to your point, so Bloody Bridget feels really his, but I mean also you as well, because there's a whole lot of you in the movie. But yeah, we're living in a world where everything is so corporately controlled. So there's a real benefit to not having to deal with that, not having to take notes from anybody other than just the two of you guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, Ricky always says, like film is a collaborative medium, but it's also like knowing your vision, and it's like getting input, but then also knowing when to like not take somebody's input and just keeping clear with your vision. And Ricky's really great at having a clear vision and knowing what he wants to capture. And then he also cultivates really great, like-minded creators with him on set. So it's like it flows really fast. He shoots super fast, which is great, but also it's you have to be on kind of on your toes. You know, his notes to me are always on set. Do it faster. And in some scenes, I felt like I was almost singing the dialogue because I was going so fast.
I just watched the thing about the making of Star Wars, and that's what George Lucas would always tell his actors. So it's like faster, faster, and more intense. And it takes on like a, he's so Richard is so steeped in like old school stuff, right? And so that's a hallmark of that is this like this rapid fire dialogue. Does he do a lot? You said he goes fast, like so not a lot of takes, I guess.
I mean, I feel like he it's like we'll block it. We know what's going on. We know where the cameras are. We know the marks that we need to hit. You know, we'll get our like little rehearsal for actors, rehearsal for camera and light, all that kind of stuff. But like once we get to it, generally, unless it's like a very complicated scene, you know, where there's like X amount of things happening, generally it's like very quick. And then he likes to do a thing where he lets us actors, he'll tell us like, okay, we've got it in the can. Let's do a fun one. Let's do whatever the fuck you want. And he'll like say that. And so like, you know, it's kind of fun for an actor because it's like you're workshopping your material, you know, generally by yourself. And so like your creative instrument goes one way or the other. And then sometimes you're in a good or I don't know, you're a little stifled sometimes on set with like you know other opinions and so sometimes you don't get to take those roads that you've been thinking about or a scene changes on the set. Sometimes a scene is wildly different than what I thought you know at home.
Mhm.
So you just like have to be on it, but getting that at one or two extra takes are fun for me as an artist because then I can be wild and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, you know, but it's
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to take that chance.
We said you as an artist, so that's one of the things I want to talk about. Like, how much of you, how did you? So Richard wrote he's got credit for the screenplay, but I feel like there's a lot of you in this story. Did you guys kind of conceive it together, or tell me a little bit about that?
It's really a Ricky tale. He wrote it during like COVID and the lockdown. So I guess there's a lot of me because there was a lot of me just around all, you know, we were like home all the time with lockdown. So I don't know. He wrote it and he wrote it for me, which is so like a
Hmm.
love letter. I don't know. That's so romantic to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he sourced it from actual like Haitian voodoo and things and like Bloody Bridget, Bridget is a Celtic goddess, and just like taking things from like real things that are going on actually. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess he spun it a little bit my way and
Well,
put
it's
the
got a lot of your
dance
skills
and
in it.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's good. So the dance, you get to play the cello in the movie.
yeah.
I mean, it's like a showcase for all of your skills. I mean, I see you have more skills that I'm sure we don't know about yet, but like it's a showcase, right? Is this the most, I don't know, the biggest, most focused thing that you've done so far? Is this your biggest showcase to date, you think?
Probably. I imagine so. I feel like I was in pretty much every scene. So it's
Hmm.
a lot of me.
I mean, it hinges on you pulling it off, and you do. But
Oh, thank you. Thank
did
you.
you ever feel any pressure about that? Were you like, this is a lot of like, did
Oh
you
my
feel it?
God, are you kidding? So much. Well, okay. So one, besides like being my husband, I love him. I'm also very in awe of him as a creator and artist himself. So it's like I actually get very shy in front of him, and I don't like him watching rehearsals. I don't like him watching certain things, and it does get like just because I don't know, I admire him so much as a creator. So it does get a little nerve wracking to work with him. But I mean, you know, like I get through it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I still get butterflies and stuff.
Well, in our first interview, he said something to the effect of, I was asking him about, those Elfman boys and their musical ability, and I was like, did you have to work at it? He was like, we kind of just, he was like, it was almost as if we already knew how to play certain things. Like they just picked it up. That's got to be intimidating, I would think.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, to me, it's like they're both like living legends, and just so much talent. I can't even fathom. It's like when you think about it, they're both so down to earth, but they've done so many
Hmm.
insane things. I mean, Forbidden Zone, so many people have been inspired, and a lot of people who are like movers and shakers right now in Hollywood and the cartoon world, they're all like firsthand inspired by Rick, and then like forget about all of the inspirations, and you hear it in other scores. You're like, oh, that sounds like a Danny Elfman score, you know, like it's just like crazy. Like Danny came up with like what you think of like the Batman theme. Like what?
I heard that
Insane.
you can tell me, you can speak to this or not, but I heard that Danny wrote he got a call from John Hughes about Weird Science and he wrote it on the car ride or something like that. Like it just formed fully in his head. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, well, I think that was the story, the history of The Simpsons. He
Oh,
was like
okay.
he took a meeting and then he just like came up with the Simpsons thing like in his car. And then I think with like yeah, with Batman, I think it was I forget if it was the first, probably the first one, but I was hearing him in a podcast and talking about like that he kept on go on an airplane, he kept on going into the bathroom and they were like worried he was doing drugs because he was like taking like a recorder and like humming and trying to
Yeah,
like deal with the sounds of the airplane. But yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
right?
so I know you come from a very you have a theatrical background, right? So I want to talk a little bit, like I want to dig into that. So when did the bug first bite you?
Oh,
Always?
I think always. I can't even think about a time. I don't know. I mean, I'm not, I just love performing and I just, and I grew up on all kinds of different cinema and horror and silent films and things like that. So it's just like that mixed with dance and theater and performing, it's just like always been my life. And it's like weird when people tell me that like if they don't like watching movies or something, it's like a foreign language. Like
Hmm.
what? So I don't know, just forever, as far as I can remember.
When did you realize your connection with Lon Chaney Sr.?
Well, I mean, there's so many fun little connections. Um, but so Lon Chaney Sr., he is my idol and my biggest, besides Rick, don't tell Rick, okay? He's my biggest inspiration. So we share a birthday. We're both April Fool's babies. And I don't know, I just feel like we connect also on like kind of deeper levels. It sounds kind of silly, but he grew up he both of his parents were deaf mutes, and so he had to overcome that and dealt with like communicating with them. You know, that's what helped him really focus his like pantomiming skills and things like that, you know. And I grew up I like severely dyslexia, so you know, in a way it's like movement is for me like a little bit easier to convey myself, you know, like with dance I've always been drawn to dance or comedy, like physical comedy is one of my favorite things to do, you know.
Hmm.
So like a good horror comedy is like perfect for me.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah, so I mean I know that I've grew up watching his films. I would say Phantom of the Opera would probably have been my first exposure to him, and also like in the horror genre as well. So I don't know if that answered your
You
question.
did, and I want to delve into it even further. So you say you grew up watching Lon Chaney movies. Like that's unusual, that's not something that kids are doing. I just picture you like you kept like your Lon Chaney senior lunchbox, right? And you're like, "Hey guys, like tell me just a little bit more about that." Like that just seems very unusual to me. Not in a bad way, like in a really cool way, but it just seems like
Oh,
it differentiated you from other.
totally. And that was kind of my thing too. It's like I've always wanted to be different from everybody. Like I growing up, I picked cello because it was different. Everybody wanted to play violin and I was like, okay, what's like the most different of the choices that I have from violin? I guess cello. It's huge, you know,
Mhm.
it sounds different. So that's just kind of always been like my life goals, like not to be in with the normal people, like always be outside and different.
Can we tell people? And if you don't want me to, that's okay. But I know, like, was it your last birthday? You went to the cemetery to visit some of these people.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, so I wanted to keep it kind of like low key birthday. So I like forced my family to go visit a couple of my favorite creators. And so we went to Hollywood Forever Cemetery and visited Peter Lorre, and he was a little hard to find. So it's like, it's like a little family adventure too, but we
Yeah.
ended up finding him. And then we went to a different cemetery where Lon Chaney Sr. is resting, and he's in a private area. So we kind of, I paid my respects from afar, just giving that space. But it was, besides having my daughter, it's probably the like closest to a religious experience that I've ever had. Just I don't know, being in the same area as him, and I don't know, I am the creator that I am today because of him. And I feel like as a like society, horror is what it is. Like we have horror today because of him. And he was creating insane like physical and practical effects using lighting. I mean, he came from the stage, like similar, a dancer, a comedian at first, and kind of toured like with a vaudeville-esque kind of like a theater company around the country. And so just all of that, you can see it all in his films. Whenever I watch him, even if he's masked or like full of makeup, I can just tell by the like hand movements. It's like, oh, of course that's him. And he's such a dancer with it.
Yeah. You mentioned your daughter. Like, how does she feel about Lon Chaney? Like all the stuff we're talking about. Like, does she think it's cool, or is she just like, I don't get it?
Like with silence, she loved. I've been just lightly because like I don't want to overdo it, because I feel like for me growing up, like both of my parents were like military career, and then once they got out they turned like hippie. So like my whole life is like very regiment and like a trooper, and you don't ask questions, just do kind of thing, and the show must go on. um and then they kind of got a little hippie-ish, and then like I wasn't allowed to play video games. And so that's where the cinema, like that's where the horror and like watching movies, all that became like my church, let's say.
Was that an act of rebellion to go in that direction?
No, because like also like, well, like my mom was like artistic. She wanted to do writing and things like that. So like I felt supported, but I was like very scheduled, always doing something, dance,
Mhm.
gymnastics, swimming, just like no free time basically. And like told young Marines, but like it's almost like a ROTC like weekend youth group that I was a part of too, and 4-H. Like I was just like heavily scheduled. So like I don't know, I'm not doing that as much with my daughter because like I want her to be a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we're working our way through. It's like I want her to have like I think knowing your film history, and especially your horror film history, is like very important as a creator. If this is your medium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've taken classes for that. We should mention like your South Coast Repertory Company, Stella Adler. Is it the Academy of Comedic Workshops? Is that did I say that right?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Like you studied this. This is something you have performance is something you've pursued. You didn't just like, I think I want to do this. Like this is something you've devoted a lot of your time and energy to.
Oh, completely. Yeah, and those were great. I mean, I mean, I take a lot of like, I take little things that work for me because like my brain works differently than most, so I just have to like hodgepodge things together. But I love all kinds of different methods and theories, and then I have my own stuff, that I like to put into to building characters and stuff. But yeah, no, this is definitely like a very strong and maybe sometimes silly life choice.
Do you want to do more I don't want to use the word like serious movies, but do you know what I mean? Like do you have any are you like a frustrated dramatic performer that you really want to do like, I want to do Shakespeare.
Not at all.
Okay.
I mean, I will do it if it's a fun project, but my favorite are like horror comedies. That is my favorite place to be, or a comedy. But I would say half of it is because that's where the fun characters are for women to play. You know, like I get to play generally like somebody who's maybe like a little shy or something like that, and I end up being the killer or a demon, and that's so much fun for me. You know, like I don't want to be just like, you know, the girlfriend or the wife or somebody's friend. Like I want to tear somebody's heart out and have
Mhm.
fun.
That's one of the things that struck me about Bloody Bridget is that there's a lot going on in that movie, not just visually, but thematically. And it's a very empowering, like I read it as very empowering. And I imagine that that was really rewarding to get to play.
Oh, completely. I mean, she's the character of Bloody Bridget. She's like been screwed and abused, and it's really nice to be able to like for her to be able to step up and protect herself and like the people around her. And I definitely read it as like an empowering story. I mean, I feel like some people like get a little clouded because we let the bad guys actually be bad, and I don't think like viewers are used to seeing really bad guys anymore. Like everybody's like, oh, you know, like very PC, but it's like I don't know. I think we need to see bad guys to realize that, oh, okay, like I'm happy when they're gone. You know, like
Yeah.
we with our screenings, they're so everybody is so passionate and vocal at the screenings, like cheering on Bloody Bridget to like kill the bad guy. You know, you don't get that if you don't get to see it.
Do you feel like I've talked to several filmmakers just in the last, I don't know, 6 months, and this is a thing that a lot of people are doing now is taking a movie on tour. And is that because, I don't know, streaming has changed the way things are done? Is that because it's a more active way of getting the movie out there, but it's also got to be a little bit exhausting, I would think.
It for us, it's a I mean it's a lot of hard work. The film is totally indie. Ricky and I self-financed it completely on our own, so there's nobody else. We don't have any companies or anything. So we're like, you know, festivals are reaching out and we're booking these screenings. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of unseen work dealing with like the venues, getting them the stuff that they need. And then also it's like because we do these live performances, every screening, every venue is different. I'm dealing with different you know, people that work with the venues and with the festivals. I'm dealing with like, do I have lights? What sound do I have? Do I have a dressing room? Do I have to go get changed over by the popcorn machine? You know, like it's very vaudeville, you know, crazy backstage theater kind of stuff. You know, and
Yeah.
I'm actually lucky if I get to see a stage before I set foot on it to perform, you know. So it's like
Really?
very wild.
How do you plan dance routines if you haven't even seen the stage?
Well, I'm a professional
Okay.
and I'm good with improv. And I always, you know, like I'm constantly creating, but like this number specifically, I made it so that it has a core of certain like choreography, but then there's moments where I can definitely improvise and deal with like, oh, okay, so I need an extra 10 seconds to get down the stairs and not trip on my face. I need, you know, it's like all of these like things that are going on in my head, you know, like the whole time. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, so basically I try to be super flexible with this stuff. So it's like I wanted to create a number, this Bloody Bridget, Bloody Burlesque number, where I could do it literally anywhere in a parking lot. I could do it on a stage. I could do it on the ground in front of like a regular movie theater. You know, like I just wanted
Yeah.
it to be like functional. And it has been. So it's wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you and Richard is that it's that live. You said vaudeville, and that is really what it is. I feel like that's a dying tradition. Or you could tell me, is that a dying tradition, or is that something that's still thriving on like I'm just not plugged into it, like the vaudeville tradition?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not super plugged into anything. I kind of actually try to keep my blinders on because I don't want to be influenced by anybody else. So I don't go to a lot of shows or anything. I just kind of stick to my because I want to keep it pure with my own insanity. But I feel like nobody else, as far as I know, is doing these kind of roadshow type. I like to call them vaudeville-esque
Hmm.
live pre-shows that we do. I'm also a huge fan of William Castle, and I love the like shock and entertainment that he created with like his like little gags in theater. And so that's what we do. We also, besides Bloody Bridget touring with that, we have the Elfman Live pre-show where we tour with Forbidden Zone, and sometimes we'll do like a double feature with Aliens, Clowns, and Geeks, or if it's at a like a film festival, then we'll do all three films, which is like a wild time. We've done that like in Portland recently. I forget where else. We did it somewhere else. But so yeah, so we're like definitely into like live performance, and I feel like, it's like yes, you can go see a movie with like a special director and maybe even get a Q&A, but like with our shows it's like it's almost like you get to come over to our like one of our barbecues or something, like come over and get like this really like ultra special, unique, um immersive experience, they're really wonderful events.
You talked about having blinders on for other, because you want to stay locked into your lane. What sort of things are feeding you? Like what is artistically, creatively, if you have blinders on, where are you getting fed, for your creativity?
I would say I have blinders on for like new stuff, but then I'm obsessive with the things that I want, like love. Like I've watched like Death Becomes Her like thousands of times, like all like I've got like, my go-to of films. And then it changes like if I'm in performance mode and I've got to look for inspiration, it's like a lot of times it's like I'll be like, okay, this character is like screaming, I don't know, like Penguin from Batman Returns. Like I should watch that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like nobody watching me, doing my character would be like, oh yeah, that's Penguin. It's like it just like helps me get into
Yeah. So
I
you're
just
saying Danny DeVito is a part of the Bloody Bridget character, is what I'm here. No, I'm just
you
kidding.
know, yeah, sure. I'm giving away way too many secrets here.
Yes. So you're backstage, you're about to go out and dance for the crowd and then, do the whole show. Like, are you listening to music? Are you locked in? Like, what's your process to get ready for that? And what has it been? Like, has it changed over the years? Because you've been performing for a long time.
Well, I mean, it changes with whatever I'm doing. So this isn't like an overall what I do. Um, I would say for the Bloody Bridget screening performances, I mean, it's a lot of prep because I do everything myself. Like
Hmm.
I've got to tape costumes. I've got to like, it's a balloon number, so I've got to get the balloons on there. Ricky helps me do that. I keep him grounded, put him to
Yeah.
work. And then like, I guess right beforehand, it's like hoping that they get my cues right, hoping I've got to listen and hope that they've got my lights, and if I do have time, sometimes for whatever reason, we've got to wait 5, 10 minutes or something. I'm listening to my music over and over again. And hopefully I get to hear it all the way through, because I've noticed sometimes if I only hear it halfway through, it's like a like muscle memory. I don't know if you've ever performed on stage, but like I get stage fright. So I have to like be like, I have to get the courage to go run out there, if that makes sense.
This is crazy to me because you do not seem like you would have stage fright. I mean, you seem like you're made for this and that you're in your environment when you're performing,
Oh
which
my
you
God.
are. But
Thank you. It's all smoke and mirrors. I'm a
wow.
wonderful actress, apparently. I am terrified every single time. And I almost get so scared where I'll like, I can't breathe and I'll feel like I'll have to throw up. And then I'll go run out on stage and it's fine. But it's like those moments, it's like, what have I done? I did this to myself kind of thing?
Yeah. And then is it over? Like
But then
when the
it's like worst case you trip, and then even that you can make it funny. Like I love Lucy. I watch all the time and it's like I'll pull inspiration from her. Like
okay, I gotta ask you this. So you've referenced so many. Oh, so Lon Chaney Sr., Lucy, William Castle. I'm catching all this stuff. Do you ever feel like you are, um, like you have to prove your fandom to people because you clearly have the bona fides. Like you are clearly a fan of this stuff.
It's interesting. It's like I've found, because I've just recently started taking like more, being more open to taking interviews and like like being more talky and joining, like being invited to join Ricky's interviews and things like that. So we'll do things together a lot now, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, but I have found that like people, because maybe the way I look, whatever, just think that I'm an actress. And it's like very, because also I'm like an older sister, so like I have a very strong opinion of like what's right and what's wrong, you know what I mean? And so like it like infuriates me a little bit. And I just want to like scream and say like, hey, I'm actually a fan. Like I love all of this stuff too. Like please book me. I want to talk about it. So
Mhm.
it's like people who know me know all of this stuff because I'm talking their ear off about it. I'm asking them like, oh, what are you watching? And I'm like word vomiting on them about like all the amazing stuff that we watch. Like, you know, and but it's funny how like I don't know, the public perceives somebody that they've never met, you know, and just like they're just viewing me from the work that I've done. And yes, that's a really great example, but it's like also I'm this encyclopedia of like very random and usually useless information on cinema
That's
and
what we love
practical
though.
effects.
Yeah, that it's the useless information that we love so much. That's like that's one of the things that feeds me too, is like learning more about, silent actors or whatever. I'm like, oh, did you guys know?
Totally. And also it's like because I grew up very like in my own world and like feel like very, I don't know, feeling very close to the monsters. Like I felt like an outcast myself because I had dyslexia and nobody knew what that was when I was growing up and everybody thought that I was like, I don't know, not paying attention or not lazy. And in reality, I'm working like 100 times harder just to do the basic things with
Yeah.
everybody, you know, because like, I don't know, we learn differently, we see stuff differently, and we have different talents, you know. Like I have an insane memory, which is good for me. But where was I going on that? I don't know. I just very connected to like horror and all the monsters because like even though I look like you know like I'm blonde whatever uh I feel I feel very close I feel like an outcast you know if that makes sense.
I mean, it does make sense. It sounds like going back to Lon Chaney Sr. again. I mean, it sounds like you identify with that. Like, this is a mask. The real me is under here. Like I don't know. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze or
No,
anything, but
you're completely right, yeah.
and I see it. I see this a lot right now in our current I say fandom, that's how I identify it, but there's a small group of people that want to tell everybody else they're doing it wrong. And I don't know if it's like they take identity from this thing and so like, no, this is mine. I'm not going to share it with you. But it tends to push people on the outside. And it's even worse for women because I've had several, really smart, knowledgeable women here talking, interviewed them talking about, um, you know, nerdy, like quote, nerdy things or like film stuff. And they all say the same thing. It's like I don't feel like I can, I feel like I'm being pushed to the side and no one cares what I have to say. And I don't know, what do we do about it, right? Like we could talk about it and we should talk about it, but you need a platform. What maybe you should start a podcast, right? Maybe you need to
Yeah,
go
I've
ahead.
had a lot of people like asking me, could it would just be a podcast where I'm like mouthing off about my favorite things, you know, so I don't know how interesting it would be. But yeah, no, I should probably do that at some point. But I mean, I think that what you're doing, I think the first steps are like, you know, if you have a platform, it's like give somebody an opportunity to talk just like you are doing with me today. It's like you're giving me this platform to be able to voice and like give like more insight of like who Anastasia is as a person and as a
Mhm.
creator. So I think that's really wonderful. And also like with our, not to turn it around, but like when we tour with stuff like with Ricky's films, I love it because like not only do we get a chance to like expose people or like get to touch base with like diehard fans that probably found Forbidden Zone in somebody's basement on a bootleg copy that have never been able to see Forbidden Zone on like the big screen, which is huge. But
Yeah.
also we get to tap into like the local talent and give them, a platform physically to work with people, from Hollywood and things like that that maybe they might not have gotten. And we've met so many great creators. And also what's important is um, supporting local cinemas, which I love. Those are my churches. I've
Yeah.
had so many wonderful tours of old cinemas and getting to perform there. And I want to go to all of the wonderful cinemas everywhere and perform. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're definitely like doing the great work, and you've got a wonderful like show to help, boost people's voices that might not have that.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I really do care. I want to, I hear what you're like. I just want to geek out with you about old school horror now. Like we're supposed to be promoting Bloody Bridget, but I kind of just want to talk about old Lon Chaney senior movies now.
Please, yes.
Have you seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame?
Who hasn't? Probably a lot of people. Oh,
A
don't get
lot
me
of you like
started.
a whole lot of people are not watching old things. It's sad.
It's funny. It's like I guess they kind of loop in like Phantom of the Opera, and I guess sometimes people loop in Hunchback as like monsters and put them into like the universal like classic monsters.
Yeah.
And for me, like I've never viewed anything that, obviously there's London After Midnight, but we don't have that anymore. But I've
Right.
never viewed anything that Lon Chaney Sr.'s done. He's just always been an outcast. He's never been like, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say those are monsters.
No, we want to classify everything, and I think maybe part of it's marketing is like, how do we market these movies? We market them as monster movies because more people will watch them if we say
Yeah,
that's
but
what it is.
exactly, but it's good in that way because then it's getting a new audience that might not have like sat
Mhm.
down and had been brave enough to watch a silent film. So now it's like more into like the public culture. So that's always great. I always try to like talk about Lon Chaney Sr. in every single interview, even
Well,
in Q&As, like during conversations where it's definitely not about him at all. I'll just make it about him because I'm like trying to preach the gospel. Like this man was a genius. Like you guys don't understand. Like there were no like makeup. He was doing it all himself, which is insane to me, and pulling off these effects in camera with lights. Like
yeah.
nuts. And the physical harm that he, as a dancer, I know, like I hurt myself on Bloody Bridget. I'm still dealing with it.
Oh,
It's like,
really?
yeah, yeah, for the end scene, I didn't realize until afterwards. Like during the credits, we do like Irish dancing. I don't know. Ricky writes like the craziest stuff. But so I didn't realize that I hurt both of my Achilles tendons because we were doing it on a green screen and on cement, and I was in like heels, and I was like really hitting. We were doing it, like
Yeah.
a lot of times just because that's what you have to do and get the different angles. But I didn't realize that I hurt myself so bad. I had to like not dance for like months after, and I still have issues with like my ankles and stuff now.
That's horrible.
I know, but that's
You
okay.
bleed for your art.
Yeah, we got the shot. Yes.
Is there a point coming when you're not going to be able to dance? Like, is this
Oh my
something?
God, I hope not.
But okay, that's what I was wondering. Like, is there if I don't know, is it like you hear athletes like I just can't do it anymore? Is there an age where you're like, I'm sorry, you can't do that anymore?
I don't know if somebody comes to the house like in a suit and like knocks on the door. Yeah, and like
They take away your card.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. They take away my stiletto heels. I'm like, sorry, you have to stop. No, I don't know. I mean, like I'm okay. Like I'm
yeah.
fine. And also I'm a trooper. It's like the show must go on. It's like I want to. I haven't even come close to achieving anything that I actually like that I want to do. So there's like I've got to get a lot more stuff done.
What do you? Okay, what is that? What do you want to achieve?
Oh, well, I mean,
World domination?
well, yeah, that would help. That would help a lot. I don't know. I mean, I think we've already mentioned it, but Ricky and I are writing a screenplay together. I want to shoot a film. I want to direct a film and star in it and stuff. So that'll be fun. I don't know. I just want to keep on creating. I want to do more weird things and play weird characters, I
Hmm.
don't know. That's what makes me happy. Like I'm happiest when I've got it's kind of oh my God, here we go again. But it's like Lon Chaney says, it's like there is no Lon Chaney in between pictures. Like there literally is no Anastasia in between gigs. Like I always want to have something on. I would, because of my upbringing, it's like I would rather be overscheduled than like be, twiddling my fingers. Like
Yeah.
I can't deal with downtime. If I have downtime, I'm making something happen, you know?
Hmm.
And I also do other like burlesque performances where like I'll do the full costumes myself. Like I get inspired by films. Like I have a Sante Sangre, the Horosky film. I have a whole number that I created for him. I was invited down to Mexico City to come up with a original Bloody Burlesque number for their like 30th anniversary re-release, like 4K re-release. So I
That's
got to
awesome.
perform, yeah, for the family and for the cast and crew and stuff in Mexico City. And like so like I have the Sante Sangre number. I've got a howling number that I want to do at some point. There was a howling screening at the Alamo Draft House that I was supposed to do like an opening number for, but then it like I don't know, things sometimes fizzle, you know what I mean? Or it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, or like venues are scared or whatever. It doesn't matter. But so I have that and like in my back pocket. I've got a Suspiria number. I've got all kinds of stuff. I love these dramatic, like opening, weird, surreal numbers, and then a film. Does that make sense?
Of course it makes sense. I want
Yeah.
you to do a howling number with Joe Dante in attendance.
Oh my gosh, yes. I love him. I'm so obsessed with him and I need him actually. He's one of the directors that I need to start making more creature horror films like now and
Yeah.
using actual like puppets and like practical stuff. I need them to come back. Him and Landis, we need Holland. We need these creature directors to get back into horror.
Yeah. Have you seen I'm sure you have, like, what do you think about Matinee, Joe Dante's Matinee? Because it's basically William Castle, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Haven't seen in a while.
Last year was its 30th. Holy cow.
Okay, yeah. So it's been a while.
It's been, yeah, it's been a minute since that came out, but it's like a love letter to the 50s, the schlock scene that we have such affection for, when the, like, you're talking about like the stuff that he would have things flying out at you, like
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
running down the aisle in suits and things like that.
yeah, yeah. I love all of that stuff. That's kind of like with my art when I'm not performing, like on set, for a film. It's like I want to do like shocking and entertaining live performances, and
Mhm.
ideally in a movie theater with a screening. Like those are my favorite kind of things, and I feel like. I mean, I don't want to give like too much away because I don't want
Sure.
people to copy me, but it's
Yeah.
like I want to do more of that kind of stuff, and I don't see anybody doing it,
No.
which is like another Lon Chaney thing. It's like find out what you're good at, and then that people can't do. I'm paraphrasing his quote, but it was something like, find something that you can do that nobody else can do, and then do that. And I feel like that's kind of my like little shtick is like I like to come up with these. I get very inspired um, by different films, and I love to make these ultra inspired like opening numbers, if that makes sense. And I'll pull from the film and I'll make exact duplicate costumes because like I did practical effects professionally for like over a decade and costuming and things like that. So like I can do this in my fun tiny bit of free time.
That's amazing though. Like, even the practical effects thing is so cool. What do you think? Sometimes I worry that our art is dying, like the art of performance, the art of cinema, the art of what you guys are doing, right? Making movies by yourself without having, like, Mr. Executive going like, we need less of this and more of this. I worry sometimes that because everything has become so corporate that it's strangling independent creators. And that's essentially what I'm trying to ask you is like, do you feel like you're being strangled? Do you feel like it's thriving? What's happening with that scene?
I mean, I feel like for indie artists, it's always been a struggle and it probably always will. And that's where it's like for me, it's like I love creating out of a box. Like, please put restrictions on me, you know, like we only have this much of a budget, we only have this many lights, you know, like all of these things, and then I can create out of it. And that's where my, like, when I'm under pressure, that's where my best ideas come from personally. Like I want to constantly challenge myself. I want to be hungry for it. And if I'm too comfortable, I will put problems in a good way, like creative problems in front of myself, because I want the challenge. And I'm very competitive within myself, not with other people. I want to see everybody succeed. And I am like the first person to like, okay, if I don't fit this job, I know like 10 other people that do, and you better go get, like, go hire them, you know. I already feel like very stifled by just by social media. Like, I'm in horror. I can't write like, oh, killer job, that'll get flagged, you know, like certain things I can't even write in the way, like as a comedian, I can't even write in the way that I want to like write. It's
Yeah.
so stupid.
You know what's funny is like a couple of weeks
Like,
ago, I posted a still of the Lone. It was a still from the Lone Ranger of two clowns, and one of them had a gun, and I was like, "Nightmare fuel," and they censored it. I'm like, "This is from like 1949 or something like that." It's crazy.
I recently got flagged for wanting to post something where like it was an obvious like Michael Myers, like with a mask, the whole get up, and he had a knife, and I forget what the joke was, but they flagged it, and I was like, am I gonna lose my account over like this?
Yeah. It's crazy times, but you did say something that I like, and I want to hit it because you said you essentially were saying that um, boundaries or restrictions force new avenues of creativity. Like when people put you in a box or you hit a challenge, you have to think of ways to get around that and make it even weirder and better and whatever. I love that.
Oh, totally. And also just like on the creative like side, it's like me as an artist, I feel like I get so many limitations from people who don't even approach me with projects because they think like, oh, she only does comedy, or like she's like, I don't know, like not down for doing this like very effects driven, you know, feature or something. I don't know, just like wild stuff. It's like maybe let me say what I can't do because I want to do it all. You know, it's like stop putting those like roadblocks in front of me. And like, you know, also it's like you wouldn't think it to look at me, but I have a lot of military training because of the like young Marine stuff. So like I've done rappelling off of cliffs. I've done all kinds of
Wow.
insane stuff. Yeah, yeah. But like if you're gonna like just like put me in this weird little box, it's like I miss out on stuff. So I would say
Yeah.
let creators decide what works for them. You know what I mean? And also it's like when people not pigeonholed, but like, you know, when they decide that you're a certain type, like cat for casting, it's like, okay, maybe we should like broaden that a little bit, you know?
What you're saying is bust out of the box. And I love that. That's what we got to do. We got to bust out of the box.
That's going to be the
Um,
tagline: bust out of the box.
Bust out of the box. All right, so listen, we've been talking for like an hour. I'm gonna wrap it up and wind. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go. But for congratulations on what 14 festival wins for this movie. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that's just like the festival wins, not including like best score, best director, best kill, best act. You know, like that's
Yeah.
those are fun. I've had to like clear a shelf.
Wow.
Which is a good fun problem to have.
But you guys are still out. You're still touring around with it, right? You're still taking it to different places. So if people haven't seen this, maybe be coming to a town near them soon.
Yes, yes, just follow us on Facebook or Instagram, and we try to promote. I me and the team do our best.
Anastasia Elfman, thank you so much for being here. This was an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you for having me. This has been so wonderful.
Well, there you have it. I hope that you're able to make it out to the festival scene wherever this movie comes through. If it comes through your part of the woods, your neck of the world, I don't know. Go out, go out and support this movie because you're gonna get a crazy show, right? You're gonna get a really interesting like live performance, and you're gonna get the theatrical presentation of this movie on the big screen, the way it was intended to be seen. And I'll keep you posted if there's any developments. You know, I feel a connection with these Elfmans because they've been here twice now, and I just love championing just interesting things, you know, interesting things that don't feel like they're from a cookie cutter, that feel you know, sometimes bizarre, sometimes weird, a little scary, just unfamiliar. That's what I'm chasing. And these guys deliver it over and over again. So I'll keep you posted about any future, hopefully this thing hits digital platforms at some point, that there'll be a disc release at some point. But do check out all the links. I'm going to put links in the description of this episode so you can click straight through, see if this is playing near you. You can follow Anastasia, you can follow Richard, who will hopefully be back here again soon too, to talk about the creative challenges and rewards of making independent films outside of the system. But really, this was just a blast. I want to thank Anastasia for just being really present and forthright. And, I try to give interviews that the people that I talk to haven't had before. Try to keep the questions personal and really just lock in and engage and just be there, right? And she met me there, and that's great. The interview made me happy, it just made me really happy. I hope it made you guys happy too. If you like what you heard, consider, subscribing to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You do the thumbs up, so you can do comments. Those are great ways to support the channel, because engagement is the name of the game. Some people have told me, well, I watch your stuff on my television. I can't subscribe from my television. Oh, contraire, mon frère. Yes, you can. You click up one time, I believe, over one time, and there's the Cereal at Midnight logo and a thumbs up. So you hit that thumbs up, and then you hit the logo, and you go subscribe to this channel. If you want to take it even a step further, because I believe that supporting independent creators and independent voices is more important than ever in our current, just the way the system is set up now, is we take care of our own. We take care of the things, we support the things that we care about face to face. That's what the Elfmans are doing by touring their movie. We'll tour the movie around, and we'll give them something they can't get at home. We'll give them the theatrical experience and a live performance. Well, that's personal, right? That's face to face. So I'm also giving you something personal. There is no company here. There's no corporation, you guys. It's you and it's me. So if you want to take it even a step further, we've got Patreon, patreon.com/CerealAtMidnite. There's YouTube memberships. All this stuff gets you bonuses, but the most important thing is you're supporting an independent creator who could really, who would appreciate the support, right? How about that? So thanks again to Anastasia. This was an absolute blast. We'll have another interesting conversation headed your way really, really soon. Guys, thanks so much. Till next time, I'll catch you later.